Pretty big day tomorrow. All right, so it's 6:43. Now, usually we have our Morning Cup of Joe segment with Sheriff Joe Lombardo on Wednesdays. He's running for governor, as you may know. So now we have Mornings with Metro. And today we are joined live by Assistant Sheriff Brett Zimmerman, live to talk all things law enforcement. Sir, good to see you this morning. How you doing?
Hey, good morning. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Good to see you again. All right. So we've been dealing with a heat wave, especially last week. Super hot temperatures across the valley. Obviously, we've just started summer. And we always have the issue with what do you do if there's a child or an animal that you see left in a hot car? What should we as the public do? And then what would Metro do in that circumstance?
Well, we always say this. The public is our eyes and ears when a police officer isn't around. And it's always great when the public calls when they see a child or a pet in a hot vehicle. You know, a big example is, say last week when it was 115, 116 degrees out, your car is always going to be 25 degrees more hotter. And for those of you who've ever parked on asphalt in a parking lot, you realize how hot your vehicle gets. The way we respond to those is we'll usually get that call. We encourage people to call 911. It's a serious issue. Our officers will roll code, which is lights and siren, to get to the scene as immediately as they can. We'll request medical, and when the officers get there, we'll assess the situation. If it's an absolute emergency and the child looks like in distress, the officer may break the window. If it's something where the child is just sitting in the car and can unlock the door, or looks like they're coherent, we may attempt to find the parent in that short period of time. It is a crime. It's a form of abuse or neglect, and the maximum is you could have a criminal charge filed against you or be arrested for that crime, for leaving your child or pet in that hot vehicle.
It gets right back to the if you see something, say something mantra that I know a lot of law enforcement uses. Let's switch gears, sir. Let's talk about something that we all saw last week, and that was video from law enforcement of Terrell Rhodes, the suspect in that Amari Nicholson, that horrible case of the 2-year-old who died. Rhodes, the video shows he grabbed a gun from detectives in the interview room during the process. How does something like that happen, especially when a murder suspect's in custody? That was a dangerous situation.
Yeah, you know, that was a horrible case all around for the family, for our detectives, and for the community. You know, in that situation, you know, to address it exactly, what had happened was our officers had been interviewing the suspect, Rhodes, and during that interview, they had stepped outside. Those rooms are under video surveillance at all times. The officers are within policy to have their guns in that interview room, but they observed the suspect, Rhodes, messing with the handcuffs while they were outside of that room. When they went in to confront him, as you're watching the video, you saw what occurred. He was able to pull one of the officers' guns out of the holster, and our officers were able to quickly take that situation under control. And we were able to have a desirable outcome instead of a deadly force outcome there. Also, we train for that. We have our closed quarter type scenarios. We do firearms training. We do defensive tactics training. But in an incident like this, our critical incident review team will take a look at that, review it, look at things, look at our policies, look at our procedures, look at things we can do better, because we always like to come out of these things with better training and better tools for our officers when they deal with situations like that.
Now, you see that video, that could have gone so bad, so fast there. Thankfully, it was safely handled. Let's switch gears also and talk about an increase. Another sad situation here. We're seeing more auto pedestrian fatalities on the roads here in Las Vegas. What are you seeing at Metro Police? This is an ongoing issue in the Valley for decades. What can we do to try and keep ourselves safe?
Well, we're up in fatals this year to date. We're up about 38%. 62, I believe, to 45 at this time last year. One of the factors is that the second 3 months of last year, April, May, and June, nobody was out driving. This year, a lot of people have come out. The lockdown's over. Everybody's getting vaccinated, and we're back on the roadways. What we have seen is what we do is there are different things we do. First thing we do is we use our data. We go to our high accident intersections. We know in each area command which area command has the most motorcycle fatals, the most pedestrian fatals, the most excessive speed fatals, and we gear our enforcement in regards to that. We have a joining forces team that is all members of the Valley, not only Metro, but Henderson, North Las Vegas, NHP, even school police assists us on that. And we've gotten more bang for our buck on what's called DUI blitzes. In the past, we used to do checkpoints. We'd have a lot of resources out there. Cars would line up. We didn't really get a lot of, people could turn around, do whatever they needed to do. On a DUI blitz, we use that data. We go to that certain area, and we're able to do more enforcement. A lot of things, our major cause is pedestrian error, and that's where it's basically jaywalking or someone's out of a crosswalk. One of the things that's hindering us now is AB 403, where jaywalking has now become a civil infraction. So jaywalking is no longer a crime. So an officer cannot stop, arrest, or cite for jaywalking. And one of the tools we had in regards to jaywalking is it's not for us to do that. It's more for education. Yeah. And the education standpoint is you educate the pedestrian to not jaywalk, but it's a horrific situation for the normal citizen that's driving down the street, minding their business, driving safely. That pedestrian jumps out, and they're involved in a fatal accident that affects that person in their vehicle also. Not only the pedestrian that was killed, but the person who's driving. That affects your entire life. It could, because you've killed somebody in an accident that wasn't your fault.
It is an ongoing issue. Assistant Sheriff Brett Zimmerman, we do appreciate you joining us this morning. If you at home have a question for Metro Police, submit it at 8newsnow.com. You can find out if your question is answered every Wednesday.